Hey there. So I took Ami's advice this whole month since we recorded that episode, and I just finished a menstruation cycle that was pretty much pain-free, and my energy was sustained. I didn't have huge mood swings. Um, and my periods had gotten a little rough just from changing chemistry in my body. I'm 38 years old. It just started feeling different. So listen up because she has some really, really simple and potent advice for how to navigate your diet and exercise on your menstrual cycle. One more little note of it's been a while since I recorded this interview, and I have since changed the name of this entire podcast. It was The Energetics of Codependency, and now it's just simply called the Five Petal Podcast. It's just more consistent with my branding. I have this framework, the five petals of the well woman's rose. So, I'm working it out. Here's your invitation to just get it done, not try to make it too perfect before you start. Just jump in and have fun. And here's your episode. Welcome to the Five Petal Podcast. I'm your host, Bridgid Berkano, a mystic home, hearth, and parenting coach, here to help you come home to yourself through the five petals of the well woman's rose. Through interviews and reflections, we explore what it means to care for your whole self, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and relationally, so you can live with more clarity, self-trust, and rooted connection. Let's dive in. I mostly approach life with a spiritual, intuitive lens. So when something feels right to me in my core, or it comes from a source I really trust, I go with it. And it's taken me years to understand this intelligence and feel confident in it. There are quite a few concepts related to health and wellness where it can feel like industrial modern society and healthcare is gaslighting all of us, meaning it's demanding that we ignore our body's wisdom and our soul's instincts in order to carry on some high production culture where we're made to feel crazy or inadequate if we don't fit in. And that's why when I see that someone with a significant Western medical background is talking about harmonizing with the rhythms of the menstrual cycle, I get really excited. Hello, Ami Dave.
Hello. Thank you for having me here
Hello.
today.
Yes, definitely. So for those listening, if you are a menstruating woman who has ever thought that it was normal to work through your period by guzzling ibuprofen and coffee, or if you can't understand why some days you're able to tackle the world and some days you have a hard time forming a sentence, or if you have a weight problem that doesn't make any sense when you're dieting and exercising constantly, this is for you. Ami Dave has been a physician assistant for over 20 years. She is also a women's wellness coach, specializing in helping moms navigate through this crazy life by syncing their daily habits with their monthly cycles. A mom of 3 boys, Ami realized her passion while making changes to improve her own symptoms. Using lifestyle changes, Ami helps women overcome chronic fatigue, frustration, stress, and feelings of overwhelm while replacing them with increased energy, efficiency, and empowerment. Welcome, Ami.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat today.
Absolutely. So after that whole long spiel, thanks for sitting through that.
Of course.
Just wanted to make sure I set the context here. So I've used cycle syncing as a path to self-acceptance and spiritual integration, which is why I think it's really important to talk about it on my podcast about codependency. And so for those listening, just to review, codependency is a sort of like toxic addiction to looking to other people to make you feel good about yourself and So that means not taking care of yourself and instead pleasing other people or just manipulating life in a certain way that isn't natural. I've used cycle syncing as a path to self-acceptance and spiritual integration. And I'm just curious with you, Ami, now that you're really dedicating a lot of energy about coaching women with their menstrual cycle, what was your life like before you found this practice of cycle syncing?
So I am a physician assistant, and I went to PA school straight out of high school. PAs are trained under the medical model. And so we did have a women's health unit, but I think we probably spent maybe a day or two on the actual menstrual cycle. And it was more of the science behind it, just going through the 4 phases, what's happening in the woman's body, and the hormone levels that fluctuate. And that was about it. And just from your introduction, I think of a story real quick. The word hysterectomy, or, hystero means uterus in the medical terminology. And it comes from the Greek word meaning crazy.
Right.
So
hysteria,
yes,
hysterical.
Yeah. So, so in the olden days, women were put into asylums when they went into menopause, and they were, having irritability and fatigue and not sleeping and not focusing. And so just as an aside, that medicine is geared towards the male body. But back to me. So I used to have symptoms every month, and I just, would take my pain medicines, curl up with my heating pad, and push through the day. And I figured everyone had to do that, right? Because it's not something we talk about. And at that time, I didn't really know that there was options. And so I lived through it every month. I had my 3 kids, which made my symptoms and my bleeding worse after the kids, which is, again, common. And I still didn't know that there was anything different that I could be doing. I went back to school to get my master's, and at that time I did an advanced certificate in nutrition. And it was in one of my nutrition classes where I first learned about cycle syncing. And there was a guest lecturer in my class, and she talked about this, and I loved it. And I went out and I bought her book right away. This was in 2018, and I was, or maybe a little bit before, because I graduated in 18. But I was raising 3 kids, busy stay-at-home mom. So that book sat on my nightstand for several months, untouched. And then it moved to my bookshelf, where it sat for a couple of years, again, untouched. And it wasn't until COVID quarantine, where I was sitting at home one day and I saw that book on the shelf, and I was like, you know what? I have time right now. I'm not doing anything else. And so I started reading the book. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe someday I'll implement it. Again, it wasn't, the light bulb hadn't gone off yet, until I ended up in the ER one day.
Oh.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a false alarm, and I was fine. But, while the PA's examining me, and I was like, I have 3 little kids. I think my youngest was only in maybe 1st grade at the time. I'm like, I need to be around for many years to come.
I'm sorry, you ended up in the ER with what?
So I had lymphoma back when I was 23, 24, and I had radiation.
Wow.
So I have to get my heart checked out. And I was just at a regular cardiology appointment. I was on the treadmill for the stress test, and it came back abnormal. And the doctor was like, you need to go to the ER. I think you have multiple blockages. You need bypass surgery tonight.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
So they sent me to the ER, and I had
Whoa.
Yeah, I had a procedure where they actually check all the arteries. It's called an angiogram, which turned out to be completely fine. The guy was like, your arteries are fine. There's nothing in there. So it was just a false positive, which can happen. But that afternoon, after the stress echo and in between the angio, and I was just sitting in the ER, like, I have 3 kids. I need to be around for many years to come. And that was the moment where I knew I had to make changes in my lifestyle, the way I was eating, the way I was sleeping, the way I was exercising. It actually turns out that I was eating too many salads and not enough nutrient dense foods, and I was exercising too much. So I started eating more and exercising less to see results.
That's so crazy. That's so wild. Thank you for sharing that. And wow, I took that in when you realized the impact of your stressful lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
on your ability to potentially, leave your children behind. And what a beautiful decision that is. Like, I need to care for myself so that
Yes.
I can give something to them.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And that was kind of the starting point. So once I noticed for myself that I started feeling better in like 4 months, all my symptoms were gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason I had started this research was because I was having heavy bleeding. And I was like, I'm done with this. I'm tired of the cramps, and the heavy bleeding was the one that was really like, I need to get rid of this. And yeah, within 4 months, my symptoms were gone and I felt better. And it gave me the energy to launch this new career that I'm now teaching other women how to do it. And I still, like, I can tell you today, if I have a rough couple of months, like last spring, we had a vacation, my husband had a milestone birthday, and my son graduated 5th grade all in like, I don't know, 8 weeks. So that
Yeah.
month or the next month, I did have cramps and I did have bloating, but I knew it was because we were eating out. We had a lot more parties than usual. My schedule was a little bit off. And the following month, they went away when I started, resetting everything. So now I understand.
Hmm. That's amazing. And yeah, and just backtracking, you're talking about how you were so inspired by this guest speaker in your class and you got the book and then it just kind of sat there for a long
A
time.
long time. Yeah. And I was,
And until you had like a major health crisis.
yes.
And that's what you're like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But when you said that, I was thinking this is why coaches are so important.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you had gotten a coach right in that moment, right? When you're like, oh, I need someone to like kind of hold my hand to tell me how to do
Yeah.
this. I'm not going to pick up a book
Yes.
and work through this myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I had a coach because I would have done it a lot sooner.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing about your before story. And is there anything else that you see in your clients, any other symptoms that lead them to seek your help?
So besides the physical symptoms of, monthly, so the most common ones are acne, bloating, cramping, fatigue, heavy bleeding. There's a lot of stress and anxiety and feelings of overwhelm. And I had these like most days of the week before I changed my habits and things, and I didn't know why. And I didn't realize that there was a way around it. Uh, I just thought it was normal for me to be irritable every month and yelling at my kids and my husband. And, you know, I just, I didn't realize there were alternatives. And I wasn't anticipating a lot of the benefits that I got. Like, so before cycle syncing, I used to get migraines pretty often.
Hmm.
And I went into this cycle syncing to improve my monthly symptoms. And then one day I looked at my husband and I was like, it's been several months since I've had a migraine. Right. And so there's just been a lot of other benefits that I wasn't even looking for that have come out of this for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And over time too, I never used to get migraines before, but I noticed I kind of, I'm maybe perimenopausal almost pushing that, and they started to come in a little bit. So I had to make some changes. Like the woman's lifespan and body is just wild how intricate her whole system is.
Yes. Yeah, and traditional
Yeah.
medicine is trained on the male model. So it's, hopefully now an emerging topic, both with cycle syncing and menopause, that both of those are getting more attention and more research and things now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely you're doing your part, which is so cool. Yeah. Okay, so now to the specifics. Because you're very clinical and you can give very direct advice. And I'm just gonna plug your guide that you have that which is linked in the show notes. You can talk a little bit about that and what you suggest for people to get in the rhythm of their cycle.
Yeah, so my guide basically tells you what the four phases are and gives you a couple of things that you could change right away. And I'll go through them real quick for you. So everybody knows of the monthly bleed, right? And if you're trying to conceive, you may have heard of ovulation, which is where your ovary releases a mature egg. But there are two phases in between, the follicular phase and the luteal phase. The luteal phase is your PMS week. So if you are having symptoms right before your bleed, that would be in the luteal phase. And the hormones fluctuate. So they start off low, they hit peak levels, and then they get low again at the end of the month. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. During ovulation, your testosterone in a woman surges. And with that testosterone comes increased energy. So during that phase of ovulation is when you want to do your most intense exercises. So either high intensity interval training, HIIT, or kickboxing or boot camp style workouts, you want to save for that week. Whereas in the luteal phase, your heart rate naturally goes up a little bit, so you don't want to raise it too much more. So for that week or phase, you want to do more strength training or Pilates. So there's just examples of how you can vary your exercise based on where you are in the cycle. And the same things with the foods that you eat. So again, when you have that surge of estrogen and testosterone in ovulation, your liver metabolizes that. And so you need cruciferous vegetables, so things like broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, carrots, to help you to get the nutrients that your liver needs to metabolize those hormones faster. Right? Wow. Because if there's excess estrogen floating around and the body can't deal with it at the moment, it gets put in fat cells to be dealt with later.
All right.
So if you're struggling to lose weight, it might be time to look into cycle syncing to help metabolize your hormones better and more efficiently.
Amazing. So cool. Okay, so I have a question that just popped up.
Yes.
You have 3 boys and a husband. I have 2 boys and a husband. There isn't a lot of estrogen in my house. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so interested, like, how you talk to them and explain about this and how that goes.
So my husband's also in healthcare, so I tell him everything. I'm like, you should read this book. He's like, no. But I have a chart hanging in my kitchen of all the 4 phases, the foods I'm supposed to eat in each phase, the exercises I'm supposed to be doing, even things like how you book your social calendar. When you have your period, you might want to be home more and just more with introspection and reflection of the month. When you're in ovulation, you might want to have parties, all weekend long. It doesn't matter. So I have this big chart in my kitchen, and I when I first started, I would tell my husband, like, we're going out for lunch, and I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I need soup this week because that's what I'm supposed to eat, is warm foods and things. So let's go somewhere where there's a soup. Or, this is the week where I'm supposed to eat salads. So let's go for our, wraps and salads and things. So now he asks me, he's like, what week are you in? Where should we go to eat? So that's helpful. My boys are, I have two teenagers and a tween. And they're, they learn in school and they learn the basics. And we don't really talk about it, but I guess they've seen me when I'm not feeling well and they've heard me yell. They've seen me curled up with a heating pad or whatever, but um, I do talk about it. That women's bodies are made a little differently, and that's why mom gets headaches and stomach hurts and this and that. But I don't go into detail, and I think I never even ask them. I know my husband sees a change, and my kids probably see a change too if you ask them just how mom's behaving. Um, I'm less irritable. I don't yell as often. I have more energy. And with my own coaching and stuff, I'm more engaged and present in what they're saying and doing. I hope. I try to be. um, One of the things I do is I used to sneak vegetables into their meals when they were little. Yes. So I learned these from cookbooks, but you puree vegetables like sweet potatoes and carrots and you throw them into marinara sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So,
okay. Yeah.
When they were little, I didn't tell them, but now I'm like, my sauce has sweet potatoes, carrots, cauliflower, zucchini, nutritional yeast, hemp seeds. I list all the things. I'm like, when we go to a restaurant, they don't put all those things in your sauce. So they kind of understand that, I'm a coach, I'm a PA, I'm a health fanatic. And so I tell them, like, even my chocolate chip muffins are made with applesauce and prunes and, flax seeds and this and that. And they're like, oh, okay.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I do tell them in those aspects that how I'm helping not only myself, but them also with all the healthy foods and things that they're eating. And I compare it to times when we're not eating that. And they see me eat mozzarella sticks and things too, so they understand the balance of healthy versus junk.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I was just curious because I homeschool and my kids are a little bit younger. They're 8 and 11. And so there's just their testosterone's just kind of getting online and they're like bouncing all around. And when our energy doesn't match,
yes,
it's a challenge. Yeah. Okay. That's great. I'm so happy to hear that your husband is so informed and supportive. Um, I I use the Stardust app,
okay,
which will send me alerts. It's like a period tracker app,
got it.
and you can actually link your partner to that, so
Nice.
they will get alerts about your cycle. What
It
do you
also
use?
does it. It's called MyFlow.
Oh, okay.
So it does the same thing. And this is the lady who wrote that book that I read. This is her app. So she actually breaks it down into here's what foods you need to be eating this week. And here's what.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's very helpful. I was like,
That does sound helpful.
I asked my husband, I'm like, do you want the emails? He's like, no, you just tell me what I need to know.
All right.
It's like, all right.
That's cool.
Yes.
You call the shots, lady. All right. Awesome. So, okay. Before I go on to the dream, visioning ahead to a future where this is more talked about and more widespread knowledge, is there anything else that you want to share about what you do?
I think there's just one thing everyone needs to be aware of is that if you're on birth control, the point of birth control is to turn off your own hormone system. So you don't get those surges. You just have a very steady state of the hormone levels all month long. And because of that, you lose some of the benefits of your cycle. So the intuitive, your intuition is highest in the luteal phase. So just before your bleed is when your gut instinct, you should probably follow it if it's telling you something. But I know women who still follow like a lunar cycle and just try to base it on still a monthly cycle and just keep varying their nutrients and things to mimic cycle
Oh,
syncing.
interesting.
Yeah, but
So they just link up with the moon
you
instead.
can, yeah, but like I said, it doesn't give you all the benefits because you don't get those hormone surges. So you may
Right.
not see extra energy during your ovulation week, right? Because you're not having that surge, but you may. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. I forgot that I had wanted to ask about birth control because I talk about cycle syncing just in conversation because I'm always talking about all this weird stuff at, at barbecues, whatever.
Me too.
But yeah, I've heard that from, good, good. I've heard from people like, well, I don't have a period. I haven't had a period in years because,
Right.
I'm taking stuff for an IUD or whatever.
They turned off their own hormone cycles and they're just getting a steady state of uh, hormones every day.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I don't knock it. I definitely had a period of time where I was not going to have a baby.
Yes.
So I did that too. But yeah, it is really powerful. I was so grateful to my husband for getting uh vasectomy so that I could just be feral.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It's wonderful.
um,
Um Yeah, okay. So let's say that cycle syncing becomes the norm in 5 years or something. And, it's thanks to the rise of women's wisdom. Like, what sort of shifts do you think could be possible if more women are connecting to their natural rhythms?
so I would love to see this taught in like high school health education.
Gosh, yeah.
So just that teenagers know if you're having symptoms, if you're cramping and bloating and having acne every month and, all these things, that it's not the only way to go. Right? So the first one is education, both for teenagers and for the general population. Because even in PA school, like as a healthcare professional, I didn't learn this.
Right.
So your doctors don't know it. So you can't ask them because they have no idea what it is. But
Yeah.
one is education, two is awareness and just more openness about the topic.
Mhm.
Um, and three is more resources to help anybody who is suffering with symptoms and they were told that birth control is the only option for you.
Right. Just shut it down.
Yeah.
Just shut it
Which
all
is
down.
how it's
like, really?
traditionally, if you have severe symptoms of PMS or if you have PCOS, your only option is take birth control right now, in
Right.
traditional medicine. And so I would hope for awareness. Just as an aside, I'm actually giving a talk to physicians next month about this. And that's my goal, is to just give them an introduction and an awareness to this topic.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I wish you all the success in the world because that would be amazing
Yes.
for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the energetics of codependency. I really hope that this helps our listeners come home to themselves and really nurture their cycles and rhythms so they can show up in their life with more energy and authenticity. Thank you,
Yes.
Ami.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad I get to share this information that was really helpful to me, and I hope it can be helpful to somebody else.
Thanks for listening. So, yeah, all I did was I ate more raw foods during my follicular phase and I ate more yams during my luteal phase. And it really worked the way that she said it would. I had more energy and less sugar cravings, which led to less headaches because I would just allow myself to eat as much chocolate as I wanted. And there's no problem with that. But it did give me a migraine. So then I was dealing with a migraine during my period. And that really slowed down. Go ahead and subscribe to Ami Dave's newsletter, and you'll get lots of great tips from her. Thanks for listening. If this spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. To discover which of the 5 petals is asking for your care right now, take the free 5 petals assessment at bridgidberkano.com/self-assessment. In closing, I'll leave you with a favorite phrase I learned in Circle. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's ours is ours. Until next time, be well.